Hi, Mia. Welcome to Sustainability Marketing Survival Conversations. It's great to have you on the series, especially with your background within food marketing sustainability.
Thank you very much, Simon, for having me. It's delightful to be here. It's good to chat.
Excellent. Can you say a bit about your journey into sustainability? Because that's, I believe, is intrinsically linked with your marketing journey as well.
Yeah. So sustainability has always been a little bit of a thread for me from a career perspective. So my background is in marketing, brand, and innovation, and my passion area is all about food. So I came into the marketing industry because I loved food, and I joined a business called Jordan Cereals, which I'm sure many of your listeners will know about because of their commitment to nature-friendly farming. So that's what brought me into food marketing initially, that desire to make a difference. And I'll go into more about how the food system, if you want to make a difference, that is the place to be. But I was in marketing, working brand and innovation there for the best part of 5, 6, 7 years. And I had a critical conversation with someone one day about packaging. Now, packaging when it comes to food is something that's very tangible. We all interact with it every day. I'm sure whatever you've eaten for breakfast this morning or lunch, some packaging was involved. But I've got to confess, I hadn't given it much thought up until that point about what our packaging is actually made from. And it was with a conversation with one of my colleagues who said, you do know that this packaging just gets burnt, right? And she was talking about plastic packaging that wasn't suitable for recycling. And for me, that was an absolute switch flipping when I realized, oh my goodness, as food manufacturers, we are producing so much that can be grown sustainably, but has such an impact on our world. How can I make a difference with this? And that was essentially how I went from a pivot from being a marketeer, a sole marketeer that was looking after brands, into a world where I saw brands as having the potential of making a real difference in the world. And that was my pivot into sustainability. The rest is history from there. And my career since has been all about how can I help people live healthier, happier lives through what they eat, and through helping brands and businesses help people make those decisions and do it through marketing effectively. So that's been my journey so far. And we're only at the beginning still, I'd say.
Fantastic. So you said a bit about the food system. If you fix the food system, then a lot of sustainability's problems will be sorted as well. Can you go a bit into that?
Yeah, so the food system, something that we all engage with every single day. But I think if you want to create an impact, it's one of the key areas to act. So if you look at a greenhouse gas emission perspective in terms of what the UK and globally we produce, food production, whether that's agriculture, whether that's processing and manufacturers, whether that's transport, that contributes to about 30% of greenhouse gases globally. So it's massive in terms of a carbon perspective. On the flip side, when it comes to growing food, you could argue that climate change is the fundamental thing that is having the biggest impact on food. So, in terms of a place to act from a sustainability perspective, the food system is absolutely critical for our daily lives, but also to create an impact. And it's not just the sustainability impact it has. The bit I love about food is it's something we engage with every single day. So we've all got to eat. It's a fundamental part of being a human. It's fundamental to how we live our lives from a cultural perspective, but also from a health perspective as well. I think we've got about 65% of the UK living with overweight or obesity. Chronic diseases are rising all the time. Our food system intrinsically affects every single one of us every single day and has a phenomenal impact on our planet, be it greenhouse gases, be it biodiversity loss, be it land use, be it water pollution. It touches everything and it touches every single one of us. So that's why I'm very passionate about it being a key area for us to act in. If you work in food, you can make a real difference every single day.
One of the thoughts I've had recently is that as marketers, are we part of the problem? Is that something you see in the food sector in terms of overconsumption and other areas as
Yeah,
well?
I think it's a really tricky one because yes, you could argue that marketers are part of the problem. We're all been incentivized to sell products that when you're developing them, you might not realize the unintended consequences of that. And in the food industry in particular, there's a lot of stick thrown at the food industry about, you know, the evil masterminds going on behind the scenes, creating these addictive and delicious products. And I fundamentally disagree with that. I have not been in any product development conversation where we are there plotting to cause huge amounts of obesity across the UK. People are really well intentioned in the industry. Marketeers are well intentioned as well, but it can sometimes have unexpected consequences. So it's a really tricky one. I think people go into it with the right intent, but sometimes the outcomes don't always end up where we would like them to, being the catch there. And with food, obviously it affects all of us every day, so it can have slightly bigger consequences potentially than other areas.
And are there any other challenges facing food marketeers as well, or is anything coming down the line they should be aware of? Or?
Oh, for food marketers, it's a bit of a tough time at the moment in terms of cost of living, prices going up, which we're all feeling very acutely right now. So for food marketers, it's constantly the battle of marketing products that are profitable and commercial, but still meeting those health drivers and meeting taste. And at the same time, having to bake in sustainability, because without creating sustainable products in the food industry, we're not going to have anything to sell longer term. If the climate crisis keeps accelerating, there are not going to be any food products to go on the table. So from a business resilience perspective for marketers, sustainability is crucial. It's just very tricky sometimes. How do you prioritize sustainability when you've got all of these pressures going on from a market perspective, which I'm sure you found impacts every industry. But at the moment, it's balancing the long-term view with the short-term view. That's a challenge. And I think the area that hasn't been unlocked, which brands could really benefit from, is that element of trust and long-term brand benefit that baking sustainability in does, not only for your business in terms of having a product in the long term, nice touch, but actually making your brand more trusted and more valuable and something that consumers want to come back to again and again and again. And that's an opportunity that marketers haven't maybe tapped into as much as they could for lots of reasons. Short-term pressures, and I'm sure we'll talk about it as well, just the fear of getting it wrong is a big one as well when you're talking about anything that taps into sustainability and health. Health, there are clearer guidelines. Sustainability, greenwashing is a real risk. And I think a lot of marketers don't necessarily have the time or the support or the knowledge to know how you can navigate that as well. So sometimes it's easy to stay quiet when they're missing a trick in terms of how you could be building your brand.
Yeah. I think that's a very important point, actually, because I know you work with brands to make sure they embed sustainability into what they're doing. Yeah. But then there's that part that you've just said about how they then communicate it, when we're probably aware that greenwashing is the sort of point where most businesses are sort of leaning towards at this moment in time, rather than for fear of being found out and saying something. What's been your experience in working in the sector, encouraging people to be a bit more vocal about what they're saying around the sustainability?
My angle on it is the fact that you miss a huge opportunity to build trust if you're not talking about it. And consumers within food especially just expect us to be getting on with it if you're in the industry. There's a lot of conversation about the say-do gap. I'm sure you've come across this. People really care about sustainability, but they're not paying more for it. No, they're not paying more for it because they expect you to be doing it. And if you're not doing it, and if you're silent, that opens up a space for distrust, I would say. So if you're not proactively talking about the things that you're doing, A, no one's going to hear about it unless you're proactive. And B, if you're silent, people are probably going to assume you're not doing anything, which could come and really hit you further down the road if you then get anything negative popping up. So talking about sustainability is fundamentally part of brand and business resilience, because it means your brand's going to be stronger should any supply risks come up, because you'll have factored that in from the nuts and bolts of actually producing food, but also any reputational risk. If you're doing the right thing and constantly talking about it, you've got a lot more trust and a lot more people on your side that will stay with you. Whereas if you've got a weak brand where you haven't baked that in and you haven't spoken about it, you leave yourself open to more risk, essentially.
That's a really good point. Are you seeing food manufacturers and branding teams you're working with consciously bringing sustainability into that branding mix and considering it, or is it something that they're just because the current climate, as we said, they're not looking at this moment in time?
I think it entirely depends on the brand and the business and the people that are involved. So the trends that we're seeing within food emerging more are sustainability is inherently linked with health. Those two just go together. So if it's good for me, it's good for the planet, vice versa. You kind of expect something to do both, essentially. So a lot of the challenges it's kind of a complementary subject that often comes up. If you're producing healthier products, it's often quite easy to talk about more of the sustainability aspects, particularly if they're plant-based, for example, where you've got fibre wins. All of us need more fibre. There's only 10% of the UK that are eating enough fibre. So it might be around fibre, it might be about protein, it might be about getting your fibre day or plant points. Brands that are talking about health are often in a better position to talk about sustainability just from how their products are made. But we're seeing, so health is coming out constantly as a bigger trend, but also something I'm noticing is the focus on how food is grown is coming through more, whether that is around people seeking products that aren't as processed. So they're looking for more whole food products. They don't want things that have been through as many different processes. Or is people looking to learn more about how their food has actually been grown? So a buzzword within the industry at the moment is regenerative agriculture. You hear about that a lot. More brands are starting to talk about it. And that's brilliant, because that's starting to connect people with literally the roots and the soil where their food is grown. So there is increasing appetite from food businesses to talk more about health and sustainability. It always needs to be framed in the immediate needs of the moment, mostly because food is something, it's a purchase for now. You might be doing your weekly food shop, but you're not really thinking necessarily beyond a week's time horizon. You're thinking about your immediate needs. You're thinking about your stomach. You're hungry. How do you want to feel after eating something? So taste, price, health and convenience have always got to come first. And then once you've ticked all those boxes, sustainability can help be a real brand differentiator in the background as well.
That's really good. Are you seeing a widening then of the word sustainability to mean other things apart from emissions and carbon and that sort of stuff? I was just thinking of an example that in a previous role I had to look at lots of reports.
Yeah.
And most of them from Southeast Asia of sustainability reports. And thankfully I can't remember the name of the company, but it was a food manufacturing company. And I got very excited because it started talking about the SDGs and how they were going to measure against the SDGs. And for me, that's a very broad view of what sustainability is, because there's all sorts of things in there from zero poverty to partnerships to the goals and other things in between. The one thing I didn't see them reporting against in terms of the SDGs was SDG 2, zero hunger. And I thought, hang on a minute, if anyone has got the gift to actually make a difference in this area, surely it's a food manufacturing company. Are you seeing there's a broader view of what sustainability means within food manufacturing companies and providers?
Yeah, totally. So carbon is one lens within food. And it's actually one of the trickier lenses, I would say, because as soon as you want to understand your scope 3 emissions in particular, if you're within a food manufacturer, you've got a huge chain of suppliers there from across the globe. It gets tricky quickly. And food has because it is something we all engage with socially every single day, it's got a massive social impact as well. So whenever I'm talking about sustainability within food, and I would say this is fair of the industry as a whole, carbon is a big chunk, and it's something that businesses have to keep chipping away at. But things like impact on biodiversity, soil health, communities, hunger, sustainability is much broader than that within the food industry, because the growing and production and sharing of food is a global issue that touches us all in so many different ways. So it's automatically always bigger than just carbon. It encompasses so much more. It's almost in its broadest definition within food. And as you say, the ability to impact hunger. There's a huge amount going on around food waste. How do you bring that down when in the UK we each waste the equivalent of 3 meals every single week? So food is the place to act in terms of bringing down the amount of waste. That alone can start to help combat against hunger, because there are some brilliant initiatives going on within industry to do exactly that, getting surplus out and such like. So yes, within food, sustainability is much broader. Carbon is super important, and it's a really helpful lens to help businesses focus on making an impact, but it has the power to be so much broader than that, and generally is considered more broadly than that.
Cool. And so you're bringing your experience and your expertise into these marketing teams. How do you make sure that this is embedded, say, within their brand values and their purposes going forward?
Yeah, it is. I think a lot of it for me is going back to the original brand positioning. So every good brand team will have clear brand positioning already there. And it's identifying, how does the work that you're already doing build that brand positioning? And is there anything else that you could be doing that could augment it and make it even more powerful? And I think for brand and marketing teams in particular, we do need to be speaking in the language of brand positioning, how it's going to drive sales, thinking about the short term as well as the long term, because otherwise sustainability can become a problem to sort out later. And it's not a problem, it's a real opportunity that can supercharge a brand essentially, but it does take constant commitment to it. And that's why I think, as you were just mentioning there, the brand positioning, baking it in there and making sure it's in the nuts and the bolts and the heart of the commercial proposition that a business puts forward, that's essential for sustainability to live and breathe within a brand. And then the critical bit is the people within those businesses as well, making sure that feel that they've got the permission to care, to act on sustainability issues, realizing that they can make a difference. Because anyone working every job is a climate job, but if you're working in food, you can make even more of an impact than other industries. And it's helping people realize that they have got that power to create an impact in their roles every single day. I'm a big believer in that all of us make a small change. It is going to add up to a lot. But for marketing teams and brand teams and commercial teams in particular, it needs to be baked into the brand positioning, baked into customer requirements as well. So a lot of customers have very clear guidelines in terms of what they want to see from their suppliers, and that's another really useful lever to pull. So if you can bake it into the commercial structure of a business and show how it boosts the brand and helps meet customer values and will help achieve more sales as a result, that's where you're onto a winner.
So what are the brands who are doing well or excelling in this area that you've noticed?
Yeah, well, food is a hotbed, I would say. The brand's doing a good job around sustainability and specifically the marketing. So a couple I would call out. First one, this is a lovely discovery for me at the weekend, is Hotel Chocolat. So they're a wonderful example of a brand that charges a real premium. They're the most premium chocolate you can get on the high street, I would argue. But they're also a product that is a treat and something that you're not going to eat loads of. It is something that's a real indulgence. And what Hotel Chocolat do really well with their marketing is they use their packaging in particular to communicate what they're doing from a sustainability perspective, so that when you're in that moment of enjoying your delicious chocolate, which for me this weekend was a ridiculous Easter egg, it was fantastic, but it was more fantastic because as I opened the Easter egg, it talked about how they had reused materials to make the packaging, how their egg outer was entirely recyclable. They talked about their ethical cacao sourcing to create the chocolates. And when you're indulging in a premium experience that is an indulgent, and there's a little voice that you could feel a bit bad about that when you're eating a load of chocolate. Well, I do. This is where sustainability can come in and do a real value add, because it makes you feel good about something that you might not feel good about otherwise. So Hotel Chocolat, quietly behind the scenes, have been consistent on that, and it helps build that perception of premium, indulgence and extra taste. So sustainability can add to a real sense of craft and artisanal and luxury within food. And I think Hotel Chocolat do that really well. Another couple of brands to look out for are, anyone that's in food at the moment will talk about bold beans. These are the beautiful jarred beans that you now get in most of the retailers. Their queen chickpeas are absolutely sublime. They've taken a different angle in terms of they've managed to make a product that you might think is quite boring, but is inherently sustainable and healthy. And they've managed through their marketing and through their brand creation to make it aspirational. So they've made all of these chickpeas all about their provenance, about their size, about the texture. They talk about how they go and source them and how they talk to their different farmers. They talk about soil health, and they ladder it all up to taste. So they've almost done the flip in terms of taking a product that is healthy and normally quite cheap and using sustainability, or making it something that's a sustainable product that is making it aspirational. Whereas Hotel Chocolat have taken something that is maybe less healthy and expensive and then use sustainability to make it more aspirational in that turn. So they're almost doing opposite jobs in terms of a product being fundamentally different, but they've both managed to make sustainability desirable and aspirational in different ways. And then the final one that you will have spotted, if you keep your eye out for it, you'll start to spot this everywhere, is Wild Farmed. And they're a business in their own right, but they talk about regenerative flour and working with farmers that protect the soil. And what they've done is they've taken a subject that can sometimes seem a little bit of a disconnect or disconnected, or maybe sometimes a little bit dry when you're talking about agriculture. It's something that not loads of us have a direct connection with. But what Wild Farmed have done is they've managed to create basically a rock star brand out of it. You look at Wild Farmed, it breaks all the rules of agriculture. It's about sticking it to the man, saying, farming can be different. They're doing it in a totally bold and innovative way with bright visuals, getting celebs on board. They've got a celeb founder, which is a big help. And they're bringing a totally different narrative and a totally different angle to sustainable farming and making it aspirational again, when previously that might have been something that was essential for brands, and more brands are realizing the power of talking about sustainable farming. But Wild Farmed have taken a shortcut by using really clever marketing to make it feel like something people want to buy into. And it's not just consumers that want to buy into it, it's businesses that want to buy into it as well, which is really clever. So Hotel Chocolat, Bold Bean Co., Wild Farmed. If you want some foodie inspiration on brands that are doing a good job marketing sustainably and using sustainable marketing, those are the three I'd go and look at right now.
So you also run an amazing organisation, or you're part of an amazing organisation called She is Sustainable. Can you say a bit more about that and how people can find out about what you do and access what you offer as well?
Yeah, so She is Sustainable is a volunteer-run community interest company, and we are all about helping women working in sustainability connect with other women, share their experiences, and feel clearer and more confident in their career going forwards. So we do lots of events. We do monthly online connect and chats around different topics where women can come in and talk about different issues on their minds. So we recently had one about working in local government. We do different themes about how to make the switch into sustainability. If it's an area that women are thinking about in sustainability, we're probably running an event on it. We then also do big in-person day-long workshops as well to bring women together at specific career stages. Again, so they can connect, hear from other women, share experiences, and generally feel more supported working in sustainability, because it is a tricky area to be in. It takes a lot from you, not only professionally, I think, working in sustainability, but also personally, because if you're working in this area as your day job, you do it because you care. So having a network that can lift you up and support you, which is what She Is Sustainable is really important. So if anybody's listening thinks, oh yes, I'd like a bit of that, just search She Is Sustainable on your search engine or on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's probably the best place to go.
Fantastic, thank you. Well, Mia, it's been a real pleasure speaking to you today and finding out a bit more about this food sector that has such an important role to play within sustainability, but also the marketing people within the food sector also have a really important role to play. So just want to say thank you for coming on Conversations, and thank you for sharing your thoughts and your incredible insights with me today.
Oh, thank you very much for having me, Simon. It's always a delight. Thank you.